You had muted yourself.
Okay. So, as you've heard, my name is Sandra Atieno, and I'm going to be the moderator for today during our session with assistance of Ngina, who is the coordinator for Youth Barrier Breakers Africa. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I take this chance to welcome you all to this online meeting during our week, which has been the Health Week, with the theme, My Health, My Rights. So today we are going to tackle one of the most rising and important issue, not only in Kenya, but in Africa and the world at large. Today we have several speakers who will take us through our topic, which is depression and ulcers. So our first speaker will be Paul Gitonga, CEO for TOSHp Solutions and founder CEO of Mental Wellness Hub Africa. We will also have Amos Kagiri, who is the CPO-Mental Wellness Hub Africa and the co-founder of Kijana Jasiri Foundation Thika. They will take us through the topic depression. And lastly, we'll have our speaker, who is Katile Mutuku, the founder for Youth Barrier Africa, who will take us through the topic ulcers. So before I welcome our first speaker, just a few things to note. Kindly ensure that you turn off your audio to avoid any disturbance. And also, if you have any questions, there's a chat box where you can pose your question directly to our speaker. And with that said and done, I'd love to welcome our first speaker, who is Paul Gitonga, the CEO of TOSHp Solutions and founder, CEO of Mental Wellness Hub Africa, to take us through the session. Welcome. Mr. Paul Gitonga. Mr. Paul Gitonga.
May I come in a bit, please? I'm Amos, and I think Gitonga is not clearly getting the voice on his side. He has texted me.
Okay. So you can start then.
Okay, well, no problem.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, everyone, and good evening once again. My name is Amos Kagiri. I'm a co-founder of Kijana Jasiri Foundation, which is based in Thika, but we so much go out of bound into other areas or localities like Nyeri. I reside in Nyeri myself, where we partner with also Tosh, who was supposed to speak with me in running an organization also called Mental Wellness Hub Africa. That is so much based on therapy and all that. But now narrowing down to the topic of today, and I'm glad that I'm given this opportunity to have this discussion of today, having in mind it's a special month, or I would say a green month, because it's all about mental health and everything revolving around that. So the first thing I would first seek your consideration is the poster that was sent to me was about depression and ulcers. So am I supposed to focus only on depression, or should I relate the two? Please guide.
So you can relate the two if need be. You can relate the two. It's not to focus on the depression aspect only.
Okay, thank you. So allow me go direct to introduction on the basics. I'll not make it a lecture. I'll make it so brief. I'll just highlight whatever we actually need to know. Having in mind we have in the layman, allow me use that one word, public who are listening and watching this or will watch this. So allow me use a layman language to explain everything or elaborate everything. So to talk about first depression, depression is not stress. Depression and stress are two distinct terms with two different meanings. And so when you talk of depression, there's no that specific definition that I would give or is given for depression. But again, I cannot tell someone, or I cannot tell myself that I have depression. Depression is like telling someone you have pneumonia, you have, a flu. You have to get to be tested and then noted after an assessment that yes, you have this condition or you have depression. So being a condition, being a disease like any other, then you'll define it according to what the so and so who will do the assessment, in most cases being a psychiatrist, will find. And there are three key aspects that they look for. The first one being irritability. There's a first key. It's like telling the symptoms, because we use these three to ascertain or tell if someone has depression. So the first one is usually depression. And the second commonmost sign is loss of interest in pleasurable activities. I'll give this example. For example, if I'm an outdoor person, I would say, then all of a sudden I'm shutting that down and I want to be indoors, I want to be alone out of the blues, no good reason that we can relate that to. Or I'm a clubbing person, I'm a games person, and all of a sudden I shut down. I have no interest completely regarding to that. I start missing my dance classes or my salsa classes and all that, with no good reason related to that. Not that I have anything else to do. And then the third thing is usually on that thing, irritability, loss of interest, pleasurable, and low moods. Now, you need to get to understand that a mood or your mood is not how you're feeling currently. A mood is a sustained emotion, a sustained um feeling in the body for the last 2 weeks. A mood is prolonged. It's something prolonged. When you say you have you're moody today, it's missed. It's misused. That word is misused. So when you talk of changing moods, the mood is something that is sustained for two weeks approximately. And even when you will come to talk about depression and how you get to know someone has depression and all that, because remember I said you cannot diagnose yourself, then you'll have to see consistency in these signs for 2 weeks or more. Not one day and it ends. It's a 2 weeks consistency and more days. So that's how I'd basically define depression: the presence of those three signs: irritability, loss of pleasure in loss of interest in pleasurable activities, and low moods. So there are additional signs that you'll find with people with depression, because they're here with us everywhere. And others will include insomnia. Insomnia in matters of either you lack sleep, trying to get sleep, but you can't. So you spend most of the hours at night awake, or else you have excess sleep. It can go either way. Another sign is on appetite. You can get increased appetite during this period or reduced. So some will eat out of bounds and start shooting in weight and all that. Others will slim completely, because they're not eating, they have disturbed appetite. They can't eat. They have access to food actually, but they don't have that motivation to eat. Another thing will be fatigue, easy fatigability, because whatever you want to do, you don't have that motivation to keep doing it, to continue doing whatever you are doing. Then this person is likely to engage into reckless behaviors. Reckless behaviors, I mean, you'll use any tool to do something. Knowingly, this tool can hurt someone, but you're not cautious of it. That's where we get another sign, it's suicide also. Then others will include poor hygiene and poor maintenance of self. If you get to visit such a person, you will get there very, very unkempt. The house is so untidy, unlike the norm, unlike how they were used to be. You may find the utensils are not cleaned for 1 week or so. You'll find there's no cleanup in the house, there's no specific arrangement in the house. Everything is just messy. And you're like, is this just you? These people also pull out from the public. That is, they really, really like pulling out from the public, from us, and they now remain in their own cocoon. And we'll talk so much as we go ahead on why all this happens. But one thing we all need to understand is on statistics matters, male cases of depression are higher than women. But again, when we come to suicide, because you can relate depression to suicide, but remember that not all cases of suicide are as a result of depression. But you have so many cases that come out of depression. So many cases of suicide that come out of depression. So when you talk of depression again, the statistics of suicide attempts among women are higher than men. And I repeat, suicide attempts are higher in women than men. Why, however, the cases of completed suicide among men are high than those completed suicide among the women. So on matters of suicide completed and suicide attempts, they differ depending on the two gender. But I'll come to explain later why all this happens. But just to engage our audience, please let us use the chat box. Why do you think so many women try suicide, but they do not complete, but very many men tend to complete suicide, unlike male? So engage us in the chat box, and then I'll respond to that as we proceed. Now, again, something to note is that not all persons who are depressed will show these signs. You can comfortably live with someone and will not tell this person has any signs. You might miss all these signs, and still the person present or could be diagnosed later with depression. And let me again bring the issue of seeking help, but Tosh will, if he'll get to join us later thereafter, he'll talk so much on how you're supposed to get help. Because when you get to there, you'll come to realize so much that we failed as a society, as friends, as family members, as sisters and brothers, for those who are friends and colleagues who who have been through depression or such kind of situations or illnesses. So there are specific things that you can do or not. But okay, for me, I'm a nurse. I'm a degree nurse. But again, so for us, we are so much into clinical mental health and all that. And we also have people who are in the field of counseling psychology. Now, counseling psychologists will come into matters of therapy, counseling, psychosocial support, and all that. At the clinical level, you do that. You get medicine support and all that, and many more. There are things you'll get in the clinical area, but you miss them somewhere else. So when he is talking about the management, he'll tackle whatever you get all these services, where, at which point, at which door. Yeah. And again, let me try to differentiate between depression and suicide. Remember, I said depression, there must be the consistency of these moods for 2 weeks. That is 14 days. And that is undisputable. So when you're doing the assessment, because there's a specific tool that you use for assessment and can only be used by a psychiatrist or a mental health expert who can diagnose depression, not actually anyone. Because even like now, if you Google depression test, you'll find one. PsychNet have other online websites have such tests, but never diagnose yourself with depression. If you feel that you have shown these 3 or so signs, then it's a high time to seek help from a medical point of view or a necessary office. There's so much that we've failed when it comes to supporting those who wanna seek help. You might have this friend of yours who is pulling, who doesn't pick your calls, who doesn't text you back in time, or blue tick you for 1 week or 2 weeks. What do? Us as youth will pull out also. We'll say fulani na fulani anakuanga na maringo, so haiongeleshangi and all that you get. But if you get to know the nitty-gritty of all this situation and why all this is happening, then you're able to dig back, why is it happening? You getting? So there's so much judging situations, and we miss the whole story, yeah? Because of the assumptions that we made and we instill into ourselves. So we're missing so much. We are causing so much trouble for persons with depression, because social support is key in recovery for someone with depression or any kind of mental condition. It's very necessary. than even any other. Even if you provide psychology or counseling support to this person, but he or she misses the social support, he'll never or she will never integrate back into the society and be accepted back and agree to live comfortably again. So it will always be a tussle for this person. So it's a very big role for us to play. And when we dig back on what happens and who has depression, where does it come from, and all that. First, there is the issue of does it run down the family? I know that that's a question that rises among us to most of us. And even in the field of mental health and psychiatry, you will come to realize there is a certain, we say there is a high risk, but it's not defined that it must happen. That if at all my dad had depression, that automatically I'll have depression. It's not told, it's not so definite. But there's a likelihood that it will be seen down the family. Now, how will it run down the family? There are two possible ways. First, remember in culturing your behavior is a product of of your environment automatically. Yeah? It's basically that. So when you come to depression, there's a likelihood of you getting depression just because of the environment you are brought up in. And so you can get depression with a mother who, whereas your mother and your father had no depression, but your auntie who was in that family, who was living with you, had depression. So it didn't come hereditary, it came because of the environment that you're brought up in. So there is likelihood of you developing depression or such kind mental illnesses later in life. But there is also, although very few, chances of it running down the family by genetic matters. There is something in genetic formation of the father or the mother and then runs down the family, but on very minute risks. So I wouldn't say then there's so much exact cause, but there are things that so much push us so much into high risk of depression. And they're so basically range around how we live and what we are going through. Like in the current generation, us as youth, we are so much predisposed to do these great risks. One is the drug abuse and substance. But depression and drugs either can start. You can use drugs and substance and get to depression, or you can start with depression and get to drugs and abuse. Either can happen. Either way, that can happen.
Actually, yeah.
That's also a possible cause on wherever someone is living, whatever you're engaging in. Socioeconomic status. Poverty is seen to increase the levels of depression. Depression can also drain you financially or economically and make you happen either way. So there's just risks that drive you into depression, but we cannot define a specific thing that causes this. Everyone is a candidate. You can get depression at any point in life. But the good thing with depression is, unlike like or schizophrenia, then depression you're likely to recover.
Kindly, Mohammed Koroma, kindly, can you just mute your video? Kindly.
Thank you. So what I was saying, I don't know, I've just lost my track, whatever I was saying now. The society or us as youth, us as a sister, a brother, a friend, or even a parent or a peer to wherever we are, and how we're supposed to handle these cases. First, let us not paint a picture of emotions to the public about the whole topic of depression. That is something we're supposed to so much get away from. It's not making the topic emotional and winning the people's emotions that will help us curb the whole spread of depression and suicide per se. What will happen is we need to set the facts right, because I myself in the program that I serve or where I serve or work, day in day out, actually even today late in the evening, someone someone just asks somewhere, hey, when you're depressed, and we so much got used to that word, so that we are so much misusing the word, which is very unfortunate for us all. So we are taking every scenario that has shown one sign. Someone is silent somewhere, or someone cried, hey, we are on a depression. Someone did something, hey, we are on a depression. Again, people who are going through loss and grieving, remember to grieve is a very normal process that should happen. And you cannot tell someone that you're supposed to grieve for 1 day, or grieve for 1 month, or grieve for 1 year. Grieving cannot be timeline. It cannot be scheduled that it should take a specific period of time. Grieving is very normal. It has nothing to do with the depression. You should be able to grieve normally, or bereave normally to the end until you're out of the situation. So again, that's not depression. That's what I'm saying. We need to get away from the aspect of talking about every other case that you see out there, it's depression. Every other case that you see out there, it doesn't work that way. You don't define depression by just looking at it. Actually, it could just be a mood disorder. Basically that, and has nothing to do with depression. So we need to get away from just making misdiagnosis every other corner about depression and all that. Is Tosh back, please? Someone help him with that.
Hello. Hey.
Is Tosh with us?
Oh, Gitonga is here.
Okay. Before he comes in,
Yes, I'm listening.
okay. Before he comes in, let me respond to the question that I posted for people in the group to use. And Mother says, I think it's because women tend to have more suicidal thoughts, but easily talked out, and afraid to take the next step. And he says, men, when they have suicidal thoughts, they rarely talk it out with anyone, and mostly they have made up their mind and carry on with the ways they end. And then Sandra, the society has created the stereotypes, yes, that we see today, that it is not okay for men to open up. Now, before I respond to my question, let me even respond to the issue of the stereotypes that are there in the society and whatever it has situated for us. There is change that comes with life, and you'll never run away from the change. So how you are handling issues and whatever you are facing in, say, 1990s or 1980s, it's not the same way that you are handling issues from 2005, 2007. It's not the same way you are handling issues in the era of 2017. Thank you. It's not the same way that we are handling these issues. Time and time, things change. The generations are different, so we must handle a situation different. So there long ago, you would see there were no cases of depression and all that, because we didn't have exposure to very many tassels in life. And so there was a limited situation, and how things were being handled, there was so much social network, social support that was coming from family. Unlike nowadays, the rate at which we have dysfunctional families currently, it's very high as compared to the past. That's what I'm saying. We are evolving, we are coming up to change to new eras with new challenges that need new ways of addressing these challenges or problems. And that's why we are at this point talking about depression. So you cannot solve it as we used to solve it long ago. One, I would ask, like, for example, Sandra or whoever, Martha, if you were to feel like you're stressed today and you saw that you have 2 or 3 signs of depression, will you talk to your mom? Will you talk to your dad? Most of us do not, because of the intergenerational differences between us and the parents. But that does not end at that point. This also happens to males. I'm a male, I'm a boy child, so I see this happening in one way or another. I might have faced it. That, yes, everyone talks about speak out, men speak out. Now, my question usually is, who do we speak to? Because if I'm supposed to speak to Mr. So-and-so, who yesterday told me I need to be a man, and or speak to my mom who told me mwanaume ni kuvumilia, then will I go again and speak to my elder sister later on? Go again, speak to my auntie later on? It doesn't happen that way. It won't happen. So usually it's the question of, yes, you're telling this person to speak out, but we need to state, who do you speak out to? That is very key. And Tosh will come to capture all that aspect and the available resources that are there for us, so that who can you speak out to? So that when we say just speak out, who do you speak out to? Because I would speak out to someone and laughs at me. That shuts down my system. That shuts down my emotions. It breaks me down. And forever, I might never open up to someone else. You can imagine, eh? Just a small thing, but it has a very great magnitude onto someone. Now, thank you, Martha, and thank you, Sandra, for the trying to answer the question. This is the reason as to why the suicide rates are different between males and females. When a male wants to commit suicide today, he will use a lethal means. I'll not give examples, but he'll use lethal means, unlike ladies. That is why the rates of completed. A lady will use majani chai, will use omo for the first time, will use, will take 5 Panadols. You get, as in they go that way. Yeah? But for guys, go for the lethal means. That is what happens. That's why you'll see, like, for example, gunshots. For those who've shot themselves dead, most of them are men. It's very difficult for a lady to use a lethal means. That's why there are high cases of completed among the males than the females. But that does not mean that the rates are not high in females. They're there. And funny enough is that we have so many cases that have not been reported. They're here with us. So the best you and I can do is be the best friend that a friend would have, a friend would need. Whatever I would need as a friend, then that's what I'm supposed to give out to someone else as a friend. I want to invite a question before I forward it back to Tosh, because I think I have utilized my 30 minutes or so. Any question regarding so far what I've presented?
So, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Also, my name is Gloria, and I think you, hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Gloria.
There's a lot of contribution in the chat room. You can just read them, maybe.
Yes, I'm doing, actually. I see there is so much engagement in the same. And someone posted that more substance use among males, men self-medicate. Okay, all these are true, actually. But the core reason that explains why there is variance in the rates, I've explained that. Too much expectations to the boy child, there is that. But we, the society, are the ones who stipulated that. So we have given so much expectations towards the boy child. Gloria, we do not talk with our parents, not because of intergenerational gap, but we fear to be judged. That's why we prefer to talk to other people who will advise without judgment. That's true. That's very true. Even if, let me negate kidogo, if today you, for females, I know sana females are the ones who visited this office. There's a youth clinic. You know, most females have made use of that clinic in hospitals. In a youth clinic, you'll never find a lady who is 50 years old sitting in that clinic, unless amekuja kuvisit, amekuja kusalimiana, you get. But you'll never be served by a nurse in that section of someone who is 50, 40s. No. Always maintain a specific gap that is what you call youth friendly, an age limit that I, as a youth, I'll easily relate with this lady or this guy because he or she is in my age mate. That is what happens. In the mental health field, still almost the same thing happens. It's easy for me to open up to someone I know is within my age group, so can understand me better than opening up to someone who I know, hey, this guy, man, you get situations. So yeah, that's true. Let me clarify something because I've been, I would say I've been, it's been sad that I have been receiving cases of this kind. And I'm not, please don't quote me out of context because I'm not banishing against. Actually, I believe in God, I go to church, I'm a Christian, but it's not every pastor is a counselor. Not every pastor is a counselor. I've had cases of people coming to me telling me of sexual assault when you're going to seek support or counseling from a pastor. Because we all assume, we are parents, our society assume a pastor can offer counseling, okay? But please, not all pastors are counselors. So be cautious with who you trust with your issues, with who you trust with your space, especially the ladies. And it's very unfortunate it's happening, and there's less we can do about it, but please just be cautious. Yeah. Any other question, please?
Yes, I have a question.
Please go ahead.
So we've seen that over the years, there's been a rise of depression and suicidal cases, right?
Yes.
And on 10th September, we mark the World Suicidal Prevention Day. So do you think like our country as Kenya is like doing much concerning the depression cases or the suicide cases that we're hearing? Like the government putting so much into it, because at the end of the day, we bring the solution back on board rather than like the issues. So do you think like our country as Kenya is doing much concerning it?
Thank you, Sandra, for asking that. Allow me responding to this first, because the first question is usually there is this crisis, then us as youths, what can we do about it? It's usually the first key question that we should ask ourselves. When you come to the government, whatever the government is in, I've been following so much. I was part of the team that we so much pushed into whatever needed to be included in the mental health strategic plan that was being just before, I think it was end of last year, that was being taken through counties. And I can say as per now, there's so much interest, there's so much focus that has been put towards mental health by the national government, and I'm so glad that's coming up. Recently, 2 weeks ago, I saw they had a bill that necessitated increase in number of counseling psychologists in public hospitals at county levels, which is very awesome and with so much help. Because we have the resources, we have the counseling psychologists every other corner, but how are they taken up into the hospitals? How are they taken up there where I can find them? It's not at our point. So the government is doing so much. I commend the job as for now, but there's still so much that needs to be done in regards to mental health. And I know getting along over time will do focus on that. The mess we made previously was so much focused on medical, surgical health in Kenya, or maternal health and others. We went slow on issues of mental health. Like for example, if I would ask how many psychiatric units we have in Kenya, do you know, even when you talk of county referral hospitals, that is a word that not all hospitals have. Actually, like in Nyeri, so Mount Kenya region, I think has one. Laikipia County does not have a psychiatric unit in a public hospital. So they use one in Nyeri. People from Nanyuki will come to Nyeri, Kerogoya will come to Nyeri, and so on and so forth. So you can imagine that all hustle. Yeah? But there's so much that is being done and will continue to be done. We go down to what can we as youth do? Because there's so much, again, we can do as we await the government to do something else. And our key focus will be on prevention. And I know Tosh will talk so much about that. I'll not major so much what you're supposed to do on prevention matters. And we need to be there to provide a social support mechanism for our youth, for our fellows, because whoever is so much facing all this is us. But the issues, other risks that we can never fight completely, like poverty. Yeah? But if we set up a situation, if we can set up a safe space, a safe and free space for our fellow youths to come join us and talk with us, you know, if that we're able to set and have the capacity for that, we'll have gone a very long journey. Because If you look at most NGOs that are doing on mental health, their focus is so much on disseminating information. But how many are setting up a platform that I, so and so, Sandra, Martha, whoever, can come sit down and say, by the way, this is what I'm facing, this is what my life has been for the last 2 years, and I listen to Martha, I listen to Sandra on the other side, and we get to engage, and I see enyewe Martha pia anapitia maisha yake, Sandra pia anapitia maisha yake kivipi, and how we can come up with our solutions. How many safe spaces are present for us? That's what the question I will throw back to us as youths. I'm sorry, I think your network is having a problem. Still a problem.
So I'm saying, the founding CEO of Mental Health. What is that organization? I use that organization where we try and keep a safe space for the young people. We are young people because we can be vulnerable. You can share the experience free and feel safe for no one can judge you, no one can hold this against you. That is the kind of space we giving them some kind of space. It's exposing them to much more experience. It's exposing them to much more opportunities to get to learn themselves, to get to learn from others, and importantly to get empowered and empowered. So on my depression, I think Amos has talked about depression and the whole area. They're not very good.
I think Paul is having an issue with network, so please help us with that. Paul, we can not hear actually anything from the point you started.
Yes.
There's something with network.
You're saying?
Of Paul.
Okay.
So we go to another.
Yeah, you can ask him.
So internet, we'll go to
time being.
To
check an alternative in matters of network in the time being as we proceed. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll talk to, as I communicate with Paul, I think we'll go to the next speaker, who is Katile Mutuku, who will take us through ulcers, mainly ulcers. She is the founder of Youth Barrier Africa. So karibu sana Katile Mutuku.
Yeah.
Katile Mutuku?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to first one.
Yes, you'll take us through your yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Hello.
Katile Mutuku, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Kindly take us through your discussion on depression and ulcers. Katile Mutuku, as we do that, if you have a question towards the topic, kindly forward it. You can just ask as we work on the technical issues.
Sandra.
Hello.
Okay.
Can you
Yes.
see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I'll be talking about ulcers. I'm Katile Mutuku. I'm the founder of Youth Barrier Breakers Africa. And I'll just generally talk about ulcers within 15 minutes. I think everyone can see my screen. So ulcers is caused by a bacteria called Helicobacter pylori that infects the stomach. Then it is a normal flora. So you find that most people have this bacteria in their gut. So according to research, it's thought that 58 years ago that people still had ulcers, and that's mostly Africans, and then it spread to the other countries due to migration. That's why now you can find that other people not in the continent of Africa have this disease. And then when the bacteria gets in the gut, it interferes with the immune system, and then you can get the virus. So mostly it lives in acidic environment in your stomach, duodenum, and it will irritate the lining of the stomach, and then the stomach will secrete acid, causing those stomach ulcers. So how do people get this infection or this bacteria? You can get this bacteria from childhood, or you can also get this bacteria when you are an adult. So how is it spread? So you can get H pylori bacteria from a person directly through saliva, vomit, fecal matter, and through contaminated water. Like when you have contaminated water or food contaminated with this bacteria, you will get infection. So how do you get the infection? The bacteria will enter your gut, stay there, and then it is going to irritate the stomach lining. So it will, so when your food is digested, instead of it, there is production of the acid. So the bacteria will stimulate the release of enzymes, toxins, and it will activate the immune response. So instead of the immune system working slowly, it will work faster. So together with other factors, directly or indirectly, you get will get the infection, it will damage your stomach, and you get those vidondas and uvulator ulcers. So how do you know that you have H pylori, that is the ulcers infection, that is peptic ulcer disease? You can find that most people are symptomatic. As I said, you will find that most Africans have this bacteria in their gut. So, but most people are symptomatic, like it doesn't show the infection. So how do you realize that you are having ulcers? You can have heartburns. You can also feel like you want to vomit, nausea. You can have loss of appetite, like you feel you don't want to eat. You can have bloating. You feel like your stomach is full of air. You can have fever, though it is not common. You can have anorexia. And then these signs and symptoms later they can lead to ulcers, they lead to stomach inflammation, and then you can have an ulcer. So apart from these symptoms, you can have major complications. You can have bleeding, that is from your stomach. Some vessels in the stomach can be broken, so you'll have internal bleeding. You can have obstruction. Obstruction is when, like, you have a tumor in the stomach, that is stomach cancer. So it will block food from leaving the stomach to the duodenum. We can have perforations. So when the ulcer breaks in the stomach, you'll have perforations, like you have contacts splitting into the stomach, like those acids. Then you can have peritonitis, that is infection of the peritoneal wall, like the abdominal lining. You know your abdomen, so you'll have infection of that abdomen. I hope you are following.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. So if you have a question, you can raise your hand. So if you have these signs and symptoms, you can go to the doctor and then they can look if you really have ulcers. So how is the testing of ulcers done? And why do we do this test? We want to diagnose if really you have the infection. We want to see the best treatment we can use. And then lastly, we want to prevent these serious complications from making, like, this serious infection from happening. So what is the best testing procedure? When you go to the doctor, the first thing you should do is to discuss about your medical history. What do you do? Are you taking NSAIDs, like those drugs that increase the amount of acid in your body system? The doctor should ask you the signs and symptoms. What do you feel are the signs and symptoms that you're having related to this infection? And then you can ask the medicine that you take. And maybe if it's possible, they can see for swelling, they can swell in, and then they can touch you to see if you feel pain. And then after that, the doctor will now carry out the tests. And when they carry the test and they find that you have the infection, they can seek the best treatment that you get. So a point to note, it's not a must that if you test positive, you have this infection. you can have the bacterium is in your body. So you can test positive because you have bacteria in your body and you are not infected. So there should be further confirmatory tests to satisfy that you have this disease. So when you have this treatment, it will decrease the risk of getting stomach cancer, and it will also, it is curable. The treatment for H pylori is curable. So don't fear that it's not getting well. So I'll go to the tests. We have 4 tests for H pylori, and I won't recommend that you do for blood test. Blood test is not so effective. Why? Because you can have a blood test and then maybe the bacteria is still in the blood. So the results will show you are positive, but you are not really having the infection. So the best test that you can have is the endoscopy. Endoscopy use like endoscope that are thin instruments. It will be inserted by the doctor through your mouth. Then it will go down to your stomach and duodenum. Then it will be attached to a camera. So the doctor will see if you have an infection. Then after that, the instrument is removed. Then there is a fluid around the instrument. So it will be tested for H. pylori. Obviously, the bacteria will be there. And then if you are positive, then you will be told. This also can be used after the test. Another good test is the stool antigen test. So you take a stool, then you go and then the doctor will do an investigation for the bacteria, and then it will be informed. They will get the antigen proteins, that is bacteria, the proteins in the bacteria, then they will tell you if you're positive or not. Then the last test is the urea breath test. That's how is it done? A pill is dissolved in water maybe, and then you are given the solution. So the solution, the pill has urea as carbon molecule. So when you take the pill, the body will absorb. Then when the body absorbs the pill, you will exhale carbon. So there's a bag that is put in your mouth. After some time, when you exhale, and then the doctor does the test and then finds that there are carbon molecules, that shows that you have this bacteria. So those are the 4 main tests for H. pylori. I hope you are following. Any question? Any question? Okay, I think I can continue. So what is the treatment of H. pylori? You can have, mostly we have a combination of drugs of 2 different antibiotics. It is called triple therapy. So it is a combination of 2 antibiotics together with another medicine. This other medicine is to reduce the acid level in your stomach. So it will help the antibiotics function properly. So these antibiotics, they include 3 drugs. It is a triple therapy. So we'll have a proton pump inhibitor, that is, we can have omeprazole mostly. Then it is either combined with clarithromycin, amoxicillin, or metronidazole, or the PPI can be used with bismuth salicylate and tetracycline, and then metronidazole. So after you have this treatment, you can do probably 1 or more rounds of antibiotics to see if you are cured. Maybe I can share a picture of how the kit looks like. So I think you can all see this is the H. pylori kit. This is how it looks like. And then you take three pills in the morning and then 3 pills in the afternoon. So it is 3 by 2. Yeah, the kit looks like this. So you take for 7 days, 3 times 2 for 7 days. And then after that, you can now go back and then be tested again so that you can look if you still have the virus in your body. So I'm continuing with my presentation. So can ulcers be treated? Yes, it can be treated, though reinfection may occur if you are non or partial responder. So it will depend. You can still get the infection, but it is curable. So we have this thing called H pylori infection maintenance. This means that we are using these drugs, but they are coming resistant to our bodies. So it is estimated that 50% of the population, mostly in developing countries, they have this bacteria in their system. And most are asymptomatic. That means they don't show signs and symptoms of this disease. But the treatment is now becoming controversial. And people are trying to eradicate this triple standard therapy since it decreases the ulcer relapse. So mostly when you use it to not have a relapse. Yeah, in all times, 90% of people use this kit and then they got well. But nowadays, most people are not getting well. So instead of using clarithromycin, because there is more resistance, you can try using the kit with bismuth. So why is it this resistance coming so high? Because maybe you go to the hospital, you have epigastric pain, or you are suspecting to have peptic ulcer disease, or you're having stomach inflammation, and then you're not taken to confirmatory test, and then after that you're told you have this disease. So make sure before you are given these antibiotics, kindly make sure you undergo other confirmatory tests to ascertain that you have H pylori. So my advice is to prescribers, that is clinic officers or pharmacists, do not give someone this prescription, and not unless you have the laboratory testing with evidence that the H pylori bacteria is reactive. If it is not reactive, don't prescribe until further confirmatory tests are done. So with that, I will share a picture of stomach ulcer, or maybe it can look stomach cancer. And then I am almost winding up. So you can see how a stomach cancer can look like. So if you suspect you have an infection of these ulcers, kindly go for the doctor and start your medication as early, because it's curable. That, yeah, if you take the medication well, it will be curable. So as I went up, I can see that it's not a must when you are having this bacteria that you are sick. So don't say like, I have this bacteria, so I am sick. Kindly go to the doctor, do the confirmatory test. It's not a must that you're having an heartburn that you are sick of ulcers. So find other causes. And people can say, oh, I have depression, so maybe I have ulcers. Yeah, but it's not yet confirmed, it's not yet under research, but try as much as possible. If you have these signs and symptoms, go for testing and take the pills correctly. It's only 7 days. And then if you take well, after you finish, go again and get tested, probably after 1 month. Thank you. anyone with a question?
Allow me ask this.
Yeah.
This is usually the main assumption that's made by the public or almost everyone that ukiwa na stress utapata ulcers. If you get ulcers, unaambiwa wacha stress. You get so it comes to the issue of you'll not talk about your ulcers because unaambiwa uko na stress. So what you're supposed to do is kuacha stress. Please confirm on the relation of the two.
Okay, for now it's not yet confirmed that if you have stress, you will have ulcers. What I can say is for you to have ulcers, you must have this bacteria, because what ulcers do, it increases the amount of acid that is secreted in the stomach. So mostly when your stomach is empty, you will be having those heartburns. But I guess it's not yet scientifically proved that and not all people that have depression get ulcers. So that means most likely if you don't have a bulk of this bacteria in your stomach, maybe not get ulcers. Yeah. So it is not a must that you are stressed and you have ulcers. It's a result of the stress. It can be a result of the infection. You have the infection because you must have the bacteria, and then the bacteria must go and destroy the stomach wall, release enzymes, toxins. It will raise the immune system, and then you get ulcers. Yeah. I hope you answered.
Yes, thank you.
Another question? So I can see a question in the chat box. I've always heard about stress ulcers. Yeah, I have answered that. And then I came to notice that it's not stress that affects the central nervous system, but stress to the GIT. Yeah, that you are stressing your GIT. In my first slide, I forgot to share that. My first word in my slide. Yeah, how can depression lead to ulcers? So there's a number of those with depression subjected to endless ulcers treatment, as it's a common physical symptom of depression as a result of gastric distress. So you will be having gastric distress, and then this gastric distress is the one that will contribute with other factors to the ulcers. Yeah. I think I'm done. If there's no more question.
I have one more question.
Yes?
I've been affected by this H Pylori. And actually, it is said that it is hereditary. Is it hereditary? They say
Internet. We can't hear you.
Is it
Yes?
okay now? Hello.
We can't hear you. Turn your video off. And then speak.
Oh, I was talking about hereditary. Is this stuff hereditary? Because my mom had it, then I had it. Does it mean that my other generation has?
Yeah, thank you, Caleb.
Zoom meeting.
Okay, I think I can go back to my presentation. And then there's somewhere I said, I think I didn't touch on it, but it's if this virus can be spread. I think you can see my screen.
Yes.
So the infection occurs in childhood and you don't realize it. And then it happens that if you're staying in an environment that as people who have these ulcers, this bacteria, and then it spread. I'm trying to get that part. So I'm not seeing it, but I can explain. So if you are living in an area that this bacteria is intense, and then you eat contaminated food, or I said it is spread from person to person. So if maybe your parent might be having it, you can maybe you ate it during it is transferred, you get it during your childhood. And then this bacteria, it has now the infection has shown it when you are already old. Or maybe because he has this virus, and then maybe you took something from him, from her, and it was transferred through a cough, a vomit, maybe through contaminated food or water. Yes, you can get. So if you are in an area that there is high prevalence of these people having the disease, most likely you get the disease. Yeah, if you have a family member who has it, most likely you'll have, but it is not a must. Yeah, I hope you answered.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, if you need the notes, I will share. Okay, just write an email back to the email that you received the confirmation. We will send the notes and the recordings in case you need them. Thank you. Gift, you can take the session.
Okay, thanks, Katile. I'm back. Thanks, Katile, for the wonderful presentation. Okay, we will welcome the next speaker so that we can limit time. The next speaker, please.
Mr. Amos, is
Yes.
Kiragu able to join?
Pardon?
Is Mr. Kiragu able to join? Yeah, Gitonga.
Gitonga texted in a group. I thought you had someone else because I thought you saw the message. He said he'll not manage it, so I can make his presentation, which was it's brief, so
yeah,
I'll
you
not.
can do it.
Okay, thank you. So Gitonga was actually supposed to talk on the resources that are available for us all on matters mental health, on matters of depression and suicide. And thank you, Katile, for the presentation of ulcers and stressing on the relation or the misunderstanding between depression and ulcers, stress and ulcers also. Yeah? First, before even I get to the content, remember that you can get anything in the internet. If today I was to look for something like how good is Uhuru Kenyatta on internet, I'll find it. If I wanted to get how bad Uhuru Kenyatta is, I'll get it on internet. Everything is possible. It just depends on how do you phrase the question. So on matters of health, when you want Google to be your doctor, trust me, you'll have so much commotion. So when you're getting information from Google on matters health, please let's be cautious the sources that you're getting. So on resources or the help that we should get on matters depression so much, I'll group them into three. First, there are those things that you can do as yourself. Then there are those things that you can do you as a friend to that person. And then the third aspect, which is the therapeutic help or support. To start with self, it's surprising enough that I would tell you there are people who are living with depression for years and they have not been on medication, but they have the depression attacks, but they manage it without depression. And they have never tried to commit suicide. On the other hand, you have someone who got depression and in the first attack tried to commit suicide. All these people are different. Everyone is different. But there's difference in matters of the self between these two people. When you're talking of self, I'm talking about your self-love and self-awareness. These are key aspects that determine how you're able to stress or how you're able to fight a mental condition relating stress, depression, and such like. It's so much help on that. Yeah? So, and talking about self-awareness is not only talking about who am I? Am I just Amos? Am I just, Katile, who am I? I'm Fulani, I'm doing this course, blah, blah, blah. It goes beyond that point. It goes beyond knowing emotions. When you cry, when you can't cry, when you laugh, when you stress, it gets to even knowing how I can not cry if that situation comes in. Your emotional control or emotional intelligence, I would say. Then on self-love. Now, self-love is not about being self-centered, remember? It's on self-love, it's very specific that you put yourself first. You must consider yourself in everything that you want to do. In everything that you say, wherever you want to go, please consider yourself. That's self-love. Then, another when you thank you. If you want to handle an issue of depression and you want to talk about it, the earlier, the better. I didn't talk about this, but there are stages of depression. And there are two. There is minor depression, there is major depression. The biggest difference between this is that in minor depression, the problem you look at and the problem you find is that other people are the problem. And so you have to get away from the problem. So you come into your room and lock yourself up. In major depression, you are the problem, as in you consider yourself as the problem. And so that's why you try to injure yourself or try suicide because you want to eliminate the problem, which in this case, you are the problem. Or so do we think, okay? So talking early before you get to major depression is the best. The moment you realize something is messing up with you, it's easier to attack it at that point. Actually, you might not even need medication. Psychotherapy or just the spiritual support or just a counseling session will help with that with no medication. But when you get to severe cases, then it will come with other necessities. Now, coming to you as a friend, what's the part that you're gonna play to this friend of yours who is likely to be stressed or showing signs of depression, one or two signs? So there are do's and don'ts that you should be aware, that you should be conscious of. The first is to be aware of these warning signs, you as a friend, so that you're not able to miss them at any single point. Be aware of the signs, and that's what we listed there before in the discussion. The second thing is to get involved. Don't pull out. Get involved with this person. I know there is the aspect of them pulling out, blocking you, not talking to you. I'll elaborate much later. But you must get involved. Make yourself available for this person. You see the aspect of just being there for someone. You don't need to cook for them. You don't need to talk to them. You don't need to say anything. Just being there, that helps so much. And then you must be willing to listen. There's so much that we do. We're so rush into talking. You want to give someone solution, especially males. Males, we have this problem. Every time that someone comes to us for help, the first thing we want is to provide a solution. That's what we have a problem with. But we should always learn to listen. For someone with a situation of stress or depression, listening is very key. Even in counseling, that is what happens. We give so much an ear to them. Then you must be non-judgmental. You shouldn't, the last thing this person wanna hear is that he or she is wrong. He or she did something very wrong, very bad, condemning this person, telling this person, you are Christian, I thought you are Christian, why would you do this? Blah, blah, blah. Do not make judgments on this person. Then you should offer empathy, not sympathy. That is, be there for them, understand the situation, understand them the way they are, the tempers that they evoke and all that. Get to understand why all this is happening. Then you need also to offer help. That this could be in terms of referrals, how you can connect this person with the other person, but don't leave it at that point. Remember, the person that you've connected this friend of yours with is not a friend to him or her. So this friend of yours still needs you as a friend. As much as you have connected them, he or she still needs your friend. So make follow-up, keep close contact. Then on matters, let me talk this under counseling. So the don'ts will be, you don't ask the question why. The question why limits the answer that the person is supposed to tell you. If you asked me why I didn't eat jana, and I was not hungry. But if you ask me what happened yesterday night, then I'll be able to get a statement or 2 lines to discuss that. So use so much of what other than why. Then don't act shocked. I know you'll have to control that. That's so much talking about self-awareness and all that. Then don't lecture the person on the value of life at that moment. Don't give them a lecture. You need to give them an understanding. They have heard enough of being told life is long, shit happens, life in Akwanga. They have heard that talk. So they need something else, someone to listen to them. Don't keep secrets. So seek help, and then do not use the offensive names. There's this stigmatization that comes with mental illnesses. Like, for example, your friend of yours opened up to you and told me, by the way, I was diagnosed with depression last month. In our local setup, in our culture, and I've seen that actually when I'm at my clinical areas, usually the assumption, or people use these words of the evil spirits, or you are cursed, or ulikula vitu za watu. You get such terms and phrases that so much stigmatize these people. So you need so much to avoid them. You need to come back to reality. You need to handle them as humans and be human to them. On the aspect of professional help or therapeutic help, there are 2 cases. There is counseling, there's social support, and then there's spiritual support. For everyone who has had depression and come out of it, there's one thing that they'll never miss to tell you: the spiritual support that they got from it. The spiritual support that they were able to stand once again, and they are able to listeners or anyone who is watching this is an atheist. I'm really okay with that. I'm just pointing this out for those who are spiritual. And on the aspect also of counseling, the first time that you realize you have these signs, 1 or 2 signs of depression, and you want to seek help, the first thing that will be done to you seek help, I'll share the numbers of who you can seek help from. The first thing that will be done to you is an assessment. We cannot manage you until we know what you are managing. So someone will do an assessment for you, and then we'll tell you whether it's stress, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, whether it's just any other mood disorder or anything, or even if there is no disease maybe at the end of it all. So they'll do an assessment, and then after that it will be followed by sessions of counseling or supporting therapeutic support. Things you need to know about the counseling that happens is very private. Every session that is held is on private and confidential matters, and so cannot be shared unless there is a life in danger. A life meaning you or anyone else that you intend to hurt. And then now the second thing you can also do in matters of spiritual is also to get access to support groups. To get into support groups, allow me switch off my video a minute.
Hello, sir.
So the next thing you need to get is so much on support groups. And support groups, I mean, if you want to get into a group therapy with someone or other members who have gone through the same thing, and who have gone through the same thing, and they have a better story to tell, they have a better ways that they have come out of it, and they can tell you how to handle the situation better because they have been there. And again, you also feel that you're not alone in the whole situation, and so you're able to come out of it better and stronger than only when you're getting the support from a medical point of view or a counseling point of view. And then the other part is on medication. On matters of depression and other diagnoses such as those, there is always the need for this person to be connected to a medical setup for medication. If at all a diagnosis is made that this is a diagnosis of depression, so medication will be needed, because the main common thing that you see with someone who is presenting with depression is they're very low. I've actually had this one case where this guy had depression. You have to diagnose him with depression, but he is in mutism. Now, mutism is total silence. Total silence. Like, you talk to this person, he doesn't, like only his eyes are moving. He doesn't talk to you, he doesn't laugh, he doesn't smile, he doesn't make any facial expression. He's just there. He's just doing whatever he wants. And you have to diagnose such a person, and you have to manage this person, and then you have to get him out of the mutism and able to talk again. So it happens. Then for us who are at this point, we're not at the diagnosis stage. We're not stressed. You're not depressed. There's one thing that you can so much greatly do, and that is get information regarding the same, about depression, about mental health, and how you can keep your health at stake. Remember, health is not health without mental health, and so there is need also to check on your mental health on such matters. That was so much on support. Then, if you were to go for a session today with a psychologist or psychiatrist, it would be very expensive. Actually, in remote areas, one session goes at cheapest at 2,500. Others will go for 4,000 one session, and one session is 1 hour. You can imagine. But now we're lucky to have a free toll-free lines that you can call, have a session with someone who will talk to you, who doesn't even get to know your full names. You can remain anonymous, but that person is likely to help you so much. The first group is Red Cross, the Red Cross free hotline, that is 1199. I'll share a picture of this. It's 1199 for Red Cross. They actually have very awesome counselors, very understanding for both gender, male and female. So if you feel you want to talk to a female or a male, it's very okay for you. We have another organization called Befrienders Kenya. They also have a very good hotline number, free. Amani Counseling, we have Niskiza, we have one-to-one hotline, and other many organizations. Again, it's good to also join the present organizations that have support groups for people, and they disseminate information through these support groups on matters mental health. Like for us at Kijana Jasiri, that's what we so much do about. We disseminate so much information to members, so that to make sure we want to achieve the goal of ending the stigmatization that comes with mental illnesses. So yeah, so far so good. I think I saw a question somewhere. Why is depression common in young youths than adults? And then the second is, can someone heal fully from depression? I'll start with the second question. Yes, you can heal completely out of depression, completely, and forget that it was there. But you stand a risk of recurrence, unlike someone who has never been diagnosed with a case. For someone who has had depression, he has a risk of recurrence, unlike someone who haven't ever been diagnosed with depression. The other question is why it's so much among youths and not adults. For us adults, you see, when you're talking about the causes or so much the risks that are predisposing us into depression or mental illnesses, is the exposure that we ourselves are making. Remember, like situations of frustrations with life actually. One, you're jobless, poverty, you have responsibilities that you can't take care of. So you end up into stressful situations. You get into a pay slip of 30,000, you live at a lifestyle of that amount. All of a sudden, you get into a pay slip of 150,000. What happens? You move to current, take an apartment that costs 70,000 a month. And then 5 months down the line, you're fired. When you're fired, you don't go back to Kibera. You don't. So you'll struggle to maintain this apartment at 70,000. So you start stressing, you start depression, you start all those because you added other responsibilities. So you're not able to climb down the ladder. You are not prepared for the downfall. That is what happens. So it's so much on the youth because of the exposure that you have in environmental issues, the social issues that we are at exposure of. And there is so much, I think, denial of us. We don't want the sad life. We don't want the misfortunes of life. We don't want the unfairness of life. All we want is the goodies that come with life. We want the best out of this life. So when life comes, brings bad things with it, we are very down. We are very broken. We are never ready for that. We don't know how to handle that, actually. That is a problem. We don't know how to handle the bad things. Like, for example, if I was to pose this question, and allow me use this example. If I was to lose someone that I loved so much, a parent, a siblings, or anyone, how would I take that situation? You get it? How would I consider that situation? If I lost my mom today, how would I understand and take the situation and come out of it? Or would I succumb into it and never heal from that? You get it? So it differs. As youths, we do not know how to get out of such situations when they happen. With so much drain into them. And then there is other added situations like drug and substance abuse. It's so much high among the youth. Recklessness and reckless behaviors, and alcohol. There be so much also add on to that. Because remember, even like someone who is undergoing through the medication of depression will tell you depression, management, and alcohol hazipelekani. They will fire each other. They will not work. You'll never get out of that situation if you mix alcohol and the drugs. So one has to go either way. So all those are happening. Another question? And remember, I said that so don't judge everyone that who has depression and uses drugs that one led to the other. It can be either. You can have depression, then go into drugs. They usually use it as a defensive mechanism, but it is temporary. Remember, it is temporary. So it will never solve your problem. It's actually adding up to your plate. It's actually adding up to what you have to take out of that scenario. So you're adding up into your problems. It never helps. It's just, they use it as a defense, but it never helps. They also use other forms of addiction for that matter, but they never help. Actually, you have a hard task for these people to recover. Even most of them have to manage depression for the rest of their life because of succumbing into such situations. So the best thing is to handle the situation without adding any other unnecessary burdens to the whole scenario. Sandra, back to you.
Oh, sorry. Hey, hi, my guy.
Nice.
How are you?
I'm good.
How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I know you covered a big spectrum of issues, and to be honest, I think it's deep. For me, I want to know something. I want to know how you deal with childhood trauma. Like, you can have a trauma, like for instance, let's say you were abandoned as a child, and maybe you were raised in a different family or something like that, but those issues are still a bit traumatizing you, and maybe they can even affect you, like the way you think, and even they just mess you up sometimes, and sometimes you're just too depressed. So like, I just wanted to know, like, how can you deal with childhood trauma?
Okay, thank you. That's a very also common scenario that you're having with most of our youths. Something happened when you were a childhood. Maybe there was a divorce in your family. Maybe there was assault or violence in your family that you got directly involved. Maybe there was rape or such incidences, and then they come and they cause what we call a traumatic stress disorder. So for traumatic stress disorder, it's something that is implanted in you. You see, when we fail uh, to dig up into an issue and push it into a subconscious at the back of the mind, you don't want to explore the whole issue. You just want it to sleep. This issue will come up again at some time later. It always does in one way or another. So it will always keep affecting our day-to-day lives out of our control, and we'll never have a stable life. It's until that one day, because remember, I would say this: not all wounds heal. Not all wounds heal. Even some we have to live with them for life. We just need to learn how to live with them. But there's need to explore the whole scenario. There's need to understand what exactly specifically is affecting this person, because you never pull this person from the environment of society. And the society could be the trigger that makes this person frightened once again. This person needs to settle down as a family, a man and a woman. But this guy would maybe is afraid of ladies because of what happened at Yomtoto and all that. You have to explore all these issues with someone professionally, someone very
I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry for interrupting. Let me just go direct to the question. I was I was born, and then my dad, like, he left, and he pretty much, I wasn't so, like, I also have had a very abusive family, like very abusive. So we're talking about the negative words, those kind of stuff, and I do not know where to channel it. I usually channel it in maybe like writing a lot of stuff, but I guess that's the real questions, like so that's the thing. That's actually what I'm trying to ask. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. I'll not dig so much into the issue, because this is not an issue actually you cannot even solve it at one sitting. You will not. It is usually a continuous process to recover from all this. The best thing is it happened. You will never change the past, but you can get a way to live better with it without affecting you directly, without affecting your daily life. So sitting down with someone, a therapist, and I would recommend a psychologist. Sitting down with someone for sessions, one after another, that will help recover from the trauma and get better with life. Yeah. And thank you for asking. Thank you for sharing the story with us.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
If there isn't, I think Sandra or Katile.
Gift will take over. Gift.
Yeah, but thank you so much for the presentation. I hope there's no one who has been left there with questions. Anyone? Okay. Thank you, Amos and Katile. Stephen Kairu, you have a question to ask. Stephen?
Sorry, someone's calling my name. What's happening?
I've seen your hand being raised.
No, that's an error. I'm sorry. That's
okay. Okay, thank you for the participants who have been able to join for today's session. So we'll wind up with the session. I thank you so much for all your commitments and volunteering to be in this session for today. So we'll wind up the session. We thank you all. See you for tomorrow's session. I think Katile will share tomorrow's session on the screen so that we can be able to continue with the study about our health. Thank you so much.
So tomorrow we'll have a talk on epilepsy from 7 to 8 p.m. It's not 7 to 8 p.m. And maybe if you need the recordings of the sessions we have had from Monday to now, you can just email us back at the email you received for registration. We'll send the recordings from Monday to today. Have a good night.